In 2019, we were graced with a film from Todd Phillips, the same guy that directed The Hangover. It was the first big superhero blockbuster film released post-Endgame, and people were kind of curious, what were we going to get after this big climax after 9 years in this massive cinematic franchise? I'm sorry, 11 years, my bad. And we got the Joker, something that was very different from not just Marvel and Sony, but also, to be frank, what DC was putting out at the time as well. It was a black label. It was its own thing. So what happens? Well, we have an Oscar-nominated film, a movie that actually won an Oscar for its headline actor, Joaquin Phoenix, much deserved, by the way. But, as with any successful film, particularly comic book films, we had a problem. People wanted a sequel. Arguably, that film really didn't need it. It didn't deserve it. It didn't warrant it. But finally, after years, Todd Phillips decided to give a sequel, and wasn't great. I get what he was saying. Joker 2 always felt like it was on the cusp of saying something. It wanted to talk about mental health issues when it comes to the judicial system. It wanted to talk about our obsession with true crime. It wanted to talk about trials and elections. It almost felt like it was on the cusp of something, but it never did. By other people's own admissions, Todd Phillips kind of blue-balled people. The original Joker, while not like this groundbreaking story, was very much influential. And Todd Phillips, I think because people kept twisting Joker to fit their narrative, he decided to make an entire film that was basically an FU to everyone that actually enjoyed the first Joker. I guess props to him. He spent $200 million of the studio's money on a middle finger to the audience. How many directors can say they did that? That said, I think it's fair to say that fans of the comic book character, this guy, kind of disappointed. We were kind of hoping that we'd get an evolution. We were kind of hoping that we'd get steps forward into this world. And we didn't get it. As a matter of fact, Joker 2 ends with Arthur dead. Apparently, he was never the real Joker the whole time, which real quick, you just want something very clear, Todd. And this is the same thing with Zach, to some level. I understand if you're not a fan of the comic books, but then do not sign up to direct a comic book film. Now, you attached the name Joker to the first movie because you knew if you called it, chaos, no one would fucking watch it, but you attach a recognizable DC property to it, all of a sudden it's marketable. You don't get to have your cake and eat it too, man. Like, you can't be like, it was never really the Joker. Well, motherfucker, that's how you got your money. I'm annoyed. Anyway, that said, Joker 2 could have been something very interesting. Could have delved deeper. Todd Phillips chose not to. But I want to try. I'm not in any way saying I am a better writer than Todd Phillips. I understand the message he was trying to say, but I think there's ways we could have played this. It could have been a little more interesting and turned the crowd against our beloved Joker, or Arthur Fleck, in a more menacing and sinister way. Let me have a shot. So let's begin by a few things I want to clearly talk about in the story and a few things we're clearly not going to do. First thing, it's not going to be a musical. It could have worked if they had gone full Wonka with it and had choreography and singing everywhere, but they didn't fully commit to the bit. It felt like the music was, I understand, it's all in Arthur's head. But again, you need to meet us halfway as the audience. If this is going to be a musical, you need to go all the way with it being a musical. It can't be like a black and white sequence that only Arthur can see. That said, no musical. I'm not that creative. Second, the public's obsession with true crime and how exploitative it is. How we sensationalize these criminals and their trials, and yet once the dust is settled, there are still human victims there. Now, the movie did do a great job of talking about one particular victim, and we will get to him, but I want to focus in more on that aspect of it. Now, again, let me tell you right now, my goal with this is not to make you sympathize with the Joker, it is to make you hate him. That is the goal by the end of this whole experiment, is for you to despise who he becomes. He's now some cool symbol of chaos. The Joker is meant to be a monster, and that's what we're going to try to find here. Now, as far as comic book adaptations or anything that's going to be a big influence, it's not a Joker comic, it's a Batman comic, because of course it is. But for this, we're going to be drawing on, for once, not The Long Halloween and not Year One. For once, we're going to draw upon the Batman comic book, Batman Ego. It's not necessarily exactly split personalities, but within Bruce Wayne, he's arguing between the personality that is Batman and the personality that is Bruce Wayne, trying to compromise and work together, trying to get them to coexist, because he recognizes these are two different individuals that I have, and I need them to either work together or this will not work. Now, that is Batman ego trying to turn that into something, a force for good. Now, what happens when you turn that symbol, when you turn the whole concept? Do you remember The Dark Knight when Bruce says this? I'm sorry, not The Dark Knight, Batman Begins. When Bruce says this.
As a man, I'm flesh and blood, I can be ignored, I can be destroyed, but as a symbol, I can be incorruptible.
Okay, so imagine if we had that, but instead we flip it on its head, and instead we make the villain the symbol. We allow anarchy to reign within the city. And again, this is only 5 years, or what, 3? 2? No. This film takes place 2 years after the events of the first Joker film. So Bruce Wayne is at most, 10 years old? He's not Batmaning anytime soon to save the city, which means we can burn it down and there ain't no one to stop us. We're not pulling a Gotham TV show. It is strictly the Joker on a rampage. Now, let's dive in. Now, we open much like the actual movie, Arthur locked up in Arkham. He's abused by the guards. They make fun of him, they joke with him because he's constantly in handcuffs, although there is a slight sliver of fear. However, in his head, we hear it, and more importantly, we see it in his cell. There's two of them. There's Arthur Fleck, the one locked up, and then Joker in a suit, saying, "Let me help you. Let me protect you from these bullies. Let me make sure that no one can hurt us ever again." But Arthur is trying to save him away, trying to keep him back, trying to stay in control because the Joker is a bad guy. This is also the bit where they cut him shaving. That really made me cringe. That just made me go oof in the theater, because a straight razor, just fucking ow, man. Now, anyway, that said, around this point is when we have Joker actually meet Arthur meet Lee when she's in the choir. He's just walking by, but they make eye contact and she stares and they have a brief moment. She's obsessed with him. And yes, we're keeping some part of that. Arthur's on his way to get checked by a psychologist. Now, once again, they're checking to see, is he really mentally fit to stand trial? As it turns out, in a very corrupt world, he is. We're heading into an election year. The mayor, the DA, and the judge are all up for re-election, and all three know Arthur's head on a silver platter will guarantee all three should be re-elected. So, despite what the psychologist says, a little bribe, a little money, because again, the system is corrupt, the psychologist says Arthur's mentally fit to stand trial. Now, during this time, it is very clear Arthur is still meek, still shy. He has bouts of anger to some degree on the inside, but right now he's still a little scared. We've regressed a little bit. The Joker isn't there to protect him. The Joker, as we come to find out, is somewhat of a defense mechanism that turns into its own personality. Now, throughout all of this, Joker is still continuously trying to talk to Arthur. When Arthur shushes him and tells him to shut up, other people just stare like, who are you talking to? What are you talking about? The Joker is trying to break Arthur, trying to get through so that way he can be in control. The Joker is even the one to suggest to Arthur, maybe you should ask if you can join choir. He's stopped being so pushy. Maybe you can join the choir and meet that girl. Maybe you can meet someone. Maybe you don't need me. Again, the Joker is manipulating Arthur right now, trying to get him to talk to Lee. Who knows? Maybe she can help him. She seems interested. Harley and Joker are in the choir room. They're watching a movie and they're hanging out. She tells him, "You've done so much for the city. I'm such a big fan of yours. I kind of set my mom's house on fire just so I could come here and meet you. You're a celebrity. You've done something that I never have. You did something with your life that was great. And all I wanted to do was meet you." She's a big fangirl, but she also tells him he should embrace it. He should embrace the fact that he has followers outside the city. He should embrace the fact and all this chaos. We cut to Arthur amongst other inmates, other high-level inmates, and how they're abused by the guards. Arthur tries to step in and help, but he's beaten back as well, hit over the head with a club by Jackie, the guard that was nice to him in the actual movie. No, he's going to be a total dick in this one. Now, Arthur sees everything that's going wrong, and once again, the Joker says, "Let me help you. If we embrace this, maybe we can change something." Arthur is a little intrigued, especially with the confidence boost that he just got from Lee. Once again, together on another movie night, Lee decides to set fire to the projector so that they can make an escape attempt. Now, obviously, they're having fun, they're frolicking on some level. Arthur isn't so much focused on escaping as much as he is enjoying Lee. He finally has someone that he can talk to about all of this. Now, while they don't escape, they do put on a big show for the media. All of a sudden, his trial has been sped up. Because he is a flight risk, he may try to escape a second time. Once Arthur is captured, he's once again thrown downstairs into the catacombs in an isolated cell, but Lee is able to get access to him. She says that she's going to be leaving soon, but she wants him to continue on with everything that he's doing. She wants him to embrace his wild side, that he has all these followers, and that he needs to lead them. He owes them a responsibility. And at this point, it's very clear that Harley is very much the devil on Arthur's shoulder, pushing him more towards the chaos. Whereas Joker's pushing him on the inside, Harley is pushing him on the outside. And he's slowly getting to a point where he may crack. Not may, he will. You'll see. Also, this is the part where they have that really awkward sex scene. But Arthur's really awkward in this part. It's not just because they did it in the sequel in Folie à Deux. I want this, again, Arthur, very awkward, very, he doesn't really know what he's doing, and she's having to take charge and tell him how to do things. We'll get to that in a sec. You'll see. Arthur's lawyer arranges an interview with Petty Myers. Now, she wants Arthur to pin the whole trying to escape thing on Lee, that she pushed him. She's trying to mount some kind of defense, trying to help him so that he doesn't face the death penalty. Now, with Petty, Arthur's initially smoking, he's smiling, talking to Petty, but then Petty starts to ask him some hard questions. He says, "You killed 6 people. Why do you think you deserve anything more than death?" And that's when Arthur's smile turns into a frown. And he's looking at Petty, looking him in the eyes, and you just see that switch just click. And he tells Petty, "You're a brave man. The last time I was being interviewed, it didn't go so well." Now, the camera is very clearly picking up Petty and Arthur, but when you go through the lens, to Arthur's eyes at least, he sees the Joker talking to Petty. He's starting to break and crack, and the dam is beginning to open. We cut to Arthur talking to Harley over the phone. She's talking about how she's doing all these interviews, trying to get Joker some good press. Arthur, some good press. I'm sorry. Arthur, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to make sure that everyone knows your side of the story, that you're the innocent one in all this. Now, the whole time Arthur's talking to Harley, that one of the guards asks him to sign a book, like before. And we get that one only possibly funny scene. I'm going to make it dark, though, trust me. We get that one scene where the guard asks him to sign a book, and then he says, "What? After he fries, it'll be worth a fortune." And Arthur writes in the book, "I hope you get cancer." That actually popped me in the theater. We're going to twist that, and it's going to get dark. Trust me. But we get that scene. But after he says that, the guards shut off the phone and again start to beat Arthur, start to abuse him. We're trying to embrace this part of it here, but Arthur just takes it because he knows it's part of a plan. It's at this point that the lawyer is trying to warn Arthur, "Hey, Harley, all these interviews that she's doing, she's bombing. She's getting you nothing but more hatred, reminding people of your crimes. Also, that story she fed you about setting her mom's house on fire, she didn't. She's a rich girl from the north side of Gotham. Her father's one of the head medical people at Gotham General. I don't understand why you're focusing so much on her. I'm trying to keep you alive." Arthur just smokes his cigarette and smiles. The trial has already begun, and it's at this point that Joker has a meeting with Harley. It's at this point that we get that scene where she does the thing and, "I want to see the real you," and he smiles and says, "I need a favor." "Oh, well, what can I do to help you?" And he says, "I need you to kill your dad." And Harley's face almost drains, "What?" And he says, "I need you to do a few things. And it starts by killing your dad and getting a lot of money." And he smiles maniacally. Where it's starting to turn. Harley was the devil on Joker's shoulder, on Arthur's shoulder, but now that the Joker's going to be unleashed, well, now she's along for the ride, whether she wants to be or not. Now, after this is when we get that great scene with Mr. Puddles. That whole core scene of, by the way, at this point, Arthur has fired his lawyer and he decides to question Mr. Puddles himself. And it's at this point that he is slapped with the reality of what he did to Mr. Puddles. And he vents about, I couldn't eat after this. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't work. I don't feel safe. I can't sleep at night. Arthur, you're the only one that was ever nice to me. And you did all this. How dare you? But that's when Arthur argues back, I never hurt you. I only ever hurt the bullies. How can you be on that stand? They're trying to kill me. How dare you? Mr. Puddles can argue, who are you to decide who lives and dies? And that is when Joker, Arthur, looks at the jury and says, you're right. Who are you to decide who lives or dies? Again, he's playing the game here a little bit. Then we get them interviewing the counselor from the original Joker, the one where she's interviewing him and saying, how are you doing, whatnot, his caseworker. And it's at this point, after they read the whole, personal writings of Arthur and how he dreams of killing people and whatnot, that's when Arthur questions her and says, didn't I tell you I was sick? Like, didn't I tell you all I have are dark thoughts? Didn't I tell you I need more meds because I'm getting out of control? I warned you. And all you did was leave me out. You left me out there to die. I reached for help and you said no. Again, trying to make a bit of a statement. We're retreading some old ground a little bit, but bear with me. We're going to jump a few things. Give me a minute. Now, the trial is supposed to be over by this point. We're about midway through, maybe a little more than halfway through the film. Arthur makes some arrangements. He's able to get out of his cell along with Jackie telling him, when they fry you, I'm going to be there. I want to see it happen. And to that point that Arthur tells him, you're not even going to live to see tomorrow. And that's when we begin to see all the doors in the maximum security wing of Arkham open. And we have all the inmates, maybe 8-10 of them that have been abused by Jackie and the other guards. And they all jump Jackie, killing him slowly and painfully. We hear the blood, we hear the gushing, we hear the screaming. And all Arthur does is laugh and watch and sing when the Saints go marching in. He's turning into the monster. The Joker is turning on. And that's when he looks at one of the guard posts and the guard smiles and nods. He is one of Joker's disciples, one of his followers. Now, it's at this point that Joker delivers his closing argument talking about society, blah, 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 leaving him behind, for we to kill him, all that stuff, right? He does not say, I am not the Joker. He does not go down that route. He has very much already embraced being the Joker, all the villainy that comes with that. Over at the courthouse, when they're about to read the sentencing, I want it to go exactly like this. The Joker says, go ahead and kill me. Society already threw me away. It doesn't matter. Even if I die, there's always going to be another Joker. There's always going to be another person like me. Someone that got thrown away. Someone that's willing to fight back. He's probably closer than you realize. And he smiles. The jury is terrified. After the closing arguments, the jury go and Arthur's taken back to Arkham. It's at this point he meets with Harley one more time and she says, everything's pretty much ready to go tomorrow. Don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. The deed is done. Her father is no more. She has the money. And Arthur says, good. I have a plan. And that's when Harley stops him and says, I need you to know I'm pregnant. Arthur stops for just a moment and then begins to smile and laugh. He seems happy. And he says, I want you to know the plan. In the courtroom, we then get the whole, we the jury find the defendants. That's when we get the bomb going off and Arthur escapes. Joker escapes along with a few henchmen. Also, part of I don't want the jury to actually say whether or not they found him guilty or not, just because I think it's more interesting to not know if he's guilty or not. I want that to always be up in the air. A talking point, would you have voted guilty or not? Was he right in his final argument saying it doesn't matter even if you kill me, there's always going to be someone else? Or is the fact that he was mentally unfit to stand trial the biggest thing? They're going to kill me just because they want to get reelected. What kind of justice system is that? It's interesting. Now, once again, though, Arthur has escaped. Arthur told Harley would have the bomb planted, the car bomb, and then there's 30 other Joker minion followers with long hair in the same kind of suit, all running scattered around. That way the cops can't get a hold of him. They don't know where to follow him. It's at this point that Joker gets with Harley, they leave, and they're in an abandoned area, right? A safe house for now. It's just Joker and Harley as they wait for some followers to come by. And it's at this point that they have sex again. But this time, he's more confident, a little forceful, a little grabbing her by the throat, pushing her against the wall. She scares him just a little bit. He's confident now. The first time that they had sex, it was very clearly Arthur, awkward, not knowing what he's doing. But this time with Joker, whatever he does is the right thing. Even when she asks him to slow down a bit, he doesn't care. And it's at this point that we see Arthur basically leading a cult of anarchists. And it's at this point that we also see him going to Gotham General with one of the guards in tow. You remember the one with the book where Arthur said, yeah, I hope you get cancer? Well, shit's about to get south, and this is when stuff's about to get dark. I apologize in advance. The scene is, we have Arthur telling two of his guys, hey, I need you to go get this, and get this. Get the body, dental records, everything. And we see that the guard from Arkham is there, and he is strapped to an x-ray machine. And he tells the guard, did you know that this produces radiation going through your body? Now, you go into it once, twice, 10 times, it really doesn't do anything, especially with all this protective layering. So he dismantles the machine, breaking off parts of the plastic to dismantle the safety harnesses there, meaning he's going to get larger doses of radiation. And that's when he tells him, I don't know how many doses you need to get cancer, so I'm just going to keep pressing this button until you do, or until I get tired. We'll see. And it's in the foreground. It's unfocused, so we hear the guy yelling, screaming in agonizing pain as Arthur just keeps pressing the button. And he remarks, it almost smells like something's burning in here. And we see Harley is very much disturbed and distraught. Like, what are you doing? You're torturing. You're not killing him. You're torturing him slowly. And Arthur says, well, yeah, that's the point. He said, I hope he gets cancer, and so I'm going to give him cancer. I should be giving him cancer. And hopefully the audience is starting to get disturbed, hearing the screams, the blood curdling, everything going on. And as Arthur is pressing this button, he looks at Harley and says, why did you lie to me? What do you mean, Puddin'? I wouldn't lie to you. And he backhands her and says, why did you lie to me about killing your dad? What do you mean I killed my dad? And Arthur says, no, you didn't. You didn't, because I've been reading all the obituaries, and there is no Dr. Quinzel that's died recently. So why'd you lie to me again? And Lee says, I was scared. I'm sorry. I didn't know how to do it. I stole the money from my dad's safe, but I don't know how to kill. And Arthur says, that's fine. Don't worry. I'll teach you. And that's when the two goons get back with a cadaver on a body stretcher thing and some files. And Arthur says, perfect. We need to go to the file room. Lee, take care of this. And then we see, and it gets back into focus, the guy is still screaming in pain, and we see black burns all over his body. It's worked. And once again, we're getting down into the horror, the nitty-gritty stuff. So if you want to turn away, you can, but it's gonna get worse. It will get worse. And it's at this point that Joker goes to the interviewer's house. Remember Petty Myers? Yeah, he breaks into his house. A very nice, beautiful home. Petty's scared. He has a wife and 2 kids. Joker talks about how all these pundits on TV and on the radio are making him out to be a monster. Well, Petty, I'm going to give you the chance to save your family. And all you have to do is not be a follower. That's when Patty goes on the air and he talks about how right the Joker was, the injustices that he suffered, how it's not fair that someone that's mentally unstable was given a criminal trial and sentenced nearly to death. We still don't know the verdict because the jury died in the explosion. How fair was it? And we turned our backs on this poor, innocent young man trying to help him. It's very clear he's going against the pundits in this. And that's when he says, I think Arthur was right. And now I need to do what is right to save my family. And we realize Patty has a bomb strapped to his chest with a dead man switch. Not dead man switch, with a switch. And he presses it and he thinks it's about to blow up and kill him and the audience. But it doesn't. It doesn't blow up. He releases the button. He's confused. And that's when we cut to his house. It's in flames. His wife and his 2 kids are gone. Patty's destroyed and distraught. As Joker said, all you had to do to save your family was not be a follower. If he hadn't listened to Joker, his family would still be alive. But instead, Patty now has to live with it, has to live with the destruction and the chaos. He has to live with the fact that his wife and his kids are gone, and it's his fault. We see the charred bodies, and we see Joker's charred body inside of a suit. Dental records confirm that is one Arthur Fleck, or so we're told to believe. Obviously, Arthur had the cadaver put in place to pretend to be him, as well as swapping out the dental records to make sure, hey, this guy right here, it's me. It really is the Joker. Yeah, monkey face. They faked his death. Now, with faking his death comes new IDs, and they're going to go on the run. Arthur looks at his new ID and it says, Jack Napier? I can make it work. Harley pulls up in a very nice red 2-seater convertible. That's when the Joker looks at her and says, Harley, I told you. We need a 4-seater, not 2. We need room. He then stabs her. And as she begins to lay on the floor bleeding, she says, but I'm pregnant. Obviously lying. And that's when Arthur, Joker, tells her, no, you're not. My meds made me sterile. You're now pregnant. You're just trying to manipulate me. And that's when we hear a very conscientious flexion going from Arthur Fleck to Joker. And that's when Joker says, you thought you were the devil on his shoulder. You were just the dog on my leash. Harley realizes she's been played this whole time as she dies in Arthur's arms. And it's at this point that Arthur and Joker drive off into the distance, and we see that there's 2 people there. Obviously, everyone else looking at him, sees there's only one dude in the driver's seat, but we see the 2 figures. His split personality completely broken. He's flip-flopping between the 2 now, and he's driving off. And there you go. And that is how I would have done Joker Folie à Deux. Cut out the music, embrace the monster that is Joker, but here's the thing. Turn the audience against him and make him a vicious monster. Make him a vicious serial killer that we can all fear. We go from liking and respecting and thinking, oh, this is a very clear message about the mental health society and whatnot, to, oh my God, this guy's a monster. How can we ever root for this guy? Because we've had too many of these cool, awesome, yeah, Joker guys. We need a monster again. And I really do think Joaquin Phoenix could have pulled it off. But yeah, what do you think of this rewrite of Joker 2? Which I think I'm going to title it Joker 2 Ego, kind of like the Batman comic, but maybe that's just me. That said, what did you think? Let us know down below. Would greatly appreciate it. And yeah, we'll hope to do these rewrites more often. Bye, everyone.